Hello and welcome to this module. Super straightforward, nice and simple module, but an incredibly important module nonetheless. So we're obviously going to be focusing on hydration and hydration for performance in particular in this module. So why is hydration important at all? Why is it something that we need to focus on? Hydration is critical for so many different aspects of your physical performance, and it's also important for your health too. So when it comes to hydration, we essentially just need to make sure that your body has the correct amounts of fluid in general circulating around your body at any given time to maintain your health levels, support any important functions that might be happening, like for example thermoregulation, and also optimal levels so that you're not hyperhydrated. You basically got too many fluids within your body that can be detrimental to performance, and of course to be dehydrated as well, which can also have a negative impact on your performance. So I'm going to go into a bit more depth on why hydration is so important to your physical performance. It really depends on your physiological requirements. If you're a 100-metre sprinter, there's going to be a lot less importance placed on something like hydration. In your training sessions for a 100-metre sprinter, however, hydration is going to be very important because it happens all the time. You might be doing a lot of strength work, for example, and so on and so forth. So the performance itself might require a little bit less importance, but the training regime that goes behind that for maybe even years, at the end of the day, that needs to be supported. If you're running a marathon in the heat and your exercise lasts for hours and your performance quite strenuous, look, that's gonna be absolutely critical. Hydration is probably one of the most, if not the most important factors in that particular scenario. So it depends obviously on the physiological requirements of your particular exercise that you're performing and what levels of training that you're doing at the time. So if you're dehydrated, your risk of infection increases. In particular, upper respiratory tract infections increase, which is basically like the common cold. The fact of the matter is, if you're dehydrated, this increases. We can see this clearly within the scientific literature. We see decreases in cardiovascular and respiratory efficiency also. This is something that we really need to avoid, of course, especially for health reasons, but at the same time for performance reasons too. When you sweat, you're basically reducing the likelihood of hypothermia. So if you're working out in a humid, hot, sunny environment and you're working out for a long time and it's quite strenuous workouts, hypothermia is a very, very real threat. So your sweat basically works to wick away as much heat as possible by evaporating water vapour from the surface of your skin, which therefore assists with the regulation of your body temperature. Humidity, temperature, sweat rates and sweat consistency also have a significant impact. So as silly as it sounds, when it comes to sweat, not the most glamorous of topics, of course, but at the same time, the consistency of your sweat can be different between people, between different people. So some people might have a very salty sweat, and some people might have very minimal amount of salt within their sweat. And however much salt that you're eliminating from your body actually contributes to lots and lots of different processes within your body. So if you're a particularly salty sweater, for example, there is an increased likelihood of things like cramps and fatigue. Whereas if you're not as salty a sweater as somebody else, your chances of that happening might be a little bit less. So it's quite interesting, the variables that are at play at all times, even in a simple topic like hydration. As we've mentioned, the type of exercise, the duration, the intensity of your exercise, these are all going to influence your hydration practices. And just to make you aware, if you think that turning up to the gym for 45 minutes to do a really good quality workout, it's only 45 minutes, you're not taking it that seriously, you're not a world-class athlete, don't worry about hydration. Your strength output can be reduced by up to 30%. So that's massively significant. So your ability to lift weights, to be strong, can be reduced significantly if you're dehydrated. Recovery also can be impaired. At the end of the day, it's not just the session that you should be concerned with. It's the recovery also, the stuff that happens in between your sessions. So we need to be recovered before your session, during your session, and also hydrated after your session as well. Hydration and fluid loss assessment methods are quite diverse, really. Within the scientific literature, there's loads of different techniques that you can use, and there's new techniques being used all the time as well. Some of the most popular ones are as follows: bioelectrical impedance analysis, or BIA, and this is essentially where You might have used one of these before. They're available in some popular gyms, for example, gym chains. They have these facilities available anyway. Bioelectrical impedance analysis is essentially where you stand on a machine. You can sometimes have sensors just on your feet or just on your hands or a combination of the two, and it essentially passes a tiny electrical current through your body. What the machine does is it tries to understand the speed at which that current has passed through your body, and the amount of impedance is analysed. It's a bioelectrical impedance analysis machine. So the impedance is analysed. From that point onwards, you can actually work out, based on the results, how hydrated you are within reason. Again, it's debatable how accurate it is. We can have a significant amount of accuracy depending on the quality of the equipment and how well it's calibrated, but there's inherent weaknesses into all of these strategies. Blood indices. So obviously, if you're at the gym and somebody's got to take your blood, it's not exactly the most suitable time and place, and it's just not the best thing to do, really. It's not practical. So that doesn't happen very often. However, in certain scientific studies, if you're in a lab setting, maybe that's part of the study, so it's absolutely fine. That can take place there. But again, it has its inherent weaknesses. Body water measures with deuterium oxide. Again, another really, really key, important way of assessing hydration and fluid content within the body. And it's been used in lots and lots of pieces of scientific research. Urine colour assessment is very, very popular. At the end of the day, everybody can nip to the toilet and see what colour your urine is. Again, not the most glamorous topic in the world, but it's actually not too bad when it comes to giving a relatively accurate assessment of your hydration levels. Now, when it comes to assessing urine colour, we just have to be mindful that certain aspects of your nutrition can influence the colour of your urine, therefore masking the result. So if you consume something like effervescent vitamins, for example, so the tablets that you dissolve in water, that can actually change the colour of your urine anyway. So you could be super dehydrated or super hydrated, but you don't know because you've got this like neon yellow colour of urine. Also, there's other aspects, for example, taking certain vitamins, and also aspects of your nutrition, like, for example, consuming beetroot juice, concentrated juices, things like that. That can change the colour of your urine sample as well. So we just need to be mindful that depending on what's happening with your nutrition, there can be, again, a level of inaccuracy when it comes to the result. Body fluid osmolality measures can take place via samples of fluids from the eye, from saliva, and again from urine as well. So in the previous example, we were assessing just the colour, but you can actually assess the osmolality of the fluid as well, whether it's from the eye, saliva, or urine. And this basically refers to the concentration, which is a relatively good way of assessing hydration, and it's something that's portable. You can use that in the gym, if obviously there'd have to be a private area, of course, if you're doing something like urine assessment. It's not something that you would probably carry around with you, but it's very easy to use in research, in a field setting, or outside of a lab, essentially. We have pre and post workout body mass fluctuation, so this is more referring to fluid loss during exercise. So in essence, nice and simple, you weigh yourself before a workout, go and do your workout for an hour or so. We assess how much fluid you've taken on board. So let's say you've got exactly 1 litre of water. So if you're consuming fluid during the session, you can obviously be mindful of how much fluid has been consumed there as well. And then you weigh yourself at the end of the session. So you can actually see how much fluid you need to perform during that session and how much you use. So that's again, it's very practical. However, results can fluctuate. Again, you're probably getting the picture here that there's quite a few inaccuracies, should we say, from lots of different types of methods of assessment. But at the same time, some of them are actually really, really easy to use and implement, even in a gym setting. And then, let's say, for example, if you did a workout, at the bottom there it says salt composition analysis. All you have to do is wear a black t-shirt, you go and work out, you dry out the moisture from that particular shirt. You can leave it on the radiator or something, and you can actually see the salt crystals forming on the black t-shirt, and that'll give you a bit of an indication as to if you're a particularly salty sweater or somebody who doesn't have that much salt, which makes up the composition of your sweat individually. So It's an interesting topic, some less glamorous aspects, but it's actually really interesting. So something like urine colour assessment, that could very, very easily be done at the beginning of any session. So something that you might be able to note down there, alongside a couple of other non-invasive methods there. Top tips for hydration: 1 litre bottle of water. Make sure it's a reusable one. Let's try and work on plastic consumption and things like that. Nothing to do with nutrition, but at the same time, if we have the option, let's try and go for a reusable plastic 1 litre bottle. I carry one with me all the time. And also, it's really easy to gauge how much fluid you've consumed. If you're at work and you're thinking, oh, how many glasses of water did I have during work? Was it 6? Was it 7? I can't really remember. And also, how much water was in each glass, or were the glass different sizes? Honestly, it's simple. It sounds stupid, but it's much, much easier to assess your fluid intakes when you've just got a 1 litre bottle of water or fluids in whatever way. So it could be juice, etc., etc. Do not rely on thirst sensation alone. There's a lot of research that suggests that you are already in a dehydrated state before thirst sensation kicks in. So thirst sensation is essentially, something that's like a warning sign. We're actually quite dehydrated at that stage. So it's something that we really need to focus on attending to. Aim to stay hydrated before, during and after exercise. At the end of the day, it's super easy just to get out your car and have a big swig of water and think, do you know what, that'll top me up. You could actually be starting your session in a very dehydrated state, having a little bit of water, doing your training session, eliminating more water from your body through sweating and respiration, etc., etc. And then after your exercise, you're even more dehydrated than when you started. And you feel as though you've been doing all right because maybe you had a bottle of water with you during the session. So just think, it's not just the session itself, it's before, during, and after the exercise that's important. If you do have quite a lot of caffeine, teas, coffees, things like that, just spread them out throughout the day. Try not to have them in one go because that concentrates the amount of caffeine in one intake. And when you've got concentrated levels of caffeine, that can have a diuretic effect as well, which basically removes more fluid and makes you go to the toilet more than we need. Aim for your final aspects of your caffeine intakes. Aim for the last intakes of fluid to arrive at least 1 hour before your sleep. Now, this is purely just to not disrupt your sleep. It's as simple as that, not for any other reason in particular. Obviously, if you're consuming fluids 10 minutes before you go to bed, it's going to disrupt your sleep because you're going to need to go to the toilet in the middle of the night. So when it comes to hydration, just make sure it doesn't have a knock-on effect on other areas. Also, nice and simple, just throughout the day, you can set a reminder. You can actually even get apps for this, where you can just get a reminder 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times throughout the day, depending on how much and what your target is set throughout the day. Could just be twice a day. Make sure that you've had a litre by 12 o'clock and by 8 p.m, let's say. Nice and simple. So you've got 2 litres in the morning, taking you up to the afternoon, and 2 litres afterwards as well. So hydration's nice and simple, but I'm sure you can agree at this stage, hopefully this module has helped you understand that it's incredibly important. It's of critical importance for your physical performance. Also has a knock-on effect mentally with focus, concentration, and lots of other things that happen that are important, not necessarily just for physical performance during your sessions, but at work as well, and just in day-to-day. So hopefully this helps. Please take note of this, and let's get to action with the advice.